Greetings. We are in the lab. We're in the lab. And this is another segment of Run Tell That. Glad to have y'all with us. Now, if you're trying to check us out through Facebook, I got the producer guy handle that right there. So I got to let y'all know. The producer guy handle that. And even with regard to some of the comments, I got to leave that to the producer to handle some of that because I got some other things I need to be doing. And we got with us our brother attorney Ken Jones in the house. Brother Ken, how are you? How are you?
I'm doing well, sir. Hopefully everything is good on you.
That's it. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So, my brother, it's all simple. It's all simple. We're going to have this conversation, but some things we got to get out the way first. And this is how we do Run Talent. This is how we do it with everybody coming on. And we're going to say to all y'all again, share, share, share. And this is, who are you? Brother Ken, who are you?
Who am I? I am a public servant who has spent many years in government, from starting in New Orleans, Savannah, Georgia, city manager of Glenarden, Maryland twice, and assistant director of affordable housing in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania for Urban Redevelopment Authority.
All right. And so now we do this right there. Because again, black community is what we're going to do. We say, who are your people? Who are your people? Who are your people?
Who are my people? You are my person for one. Captain Black, Nigel Enzi, and many, many other folks.
All right. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And so now we go to this right here. Who inspires you or what inspires you? Who inspires you?
Inspires me. I think the everyday person who struggles the most, who is trying to do the best they can do, who's just trying to make it to the next day. Those are my heroes. The mother that's raising kids by herself, the elderly people who are just trying to get from day to day, but most importantly, many people that most people never see or hear.
All right. And so now we come to this and we're going to be delving into some things. What song or songs give you that that when you hit by it, bam, what song or songs give you that give you that feeling, that sensation?
Hmm. Let's see. Kind of, but Still Pulse, one of their songs, which is the tribute to the Martyrs. That's
Okay.
about high on my list of things. Frankie Beverly and Maze, uh, Southern Girl, that's another one, and lots of others.
Okay. All right. All right. So yes, sir. Yes, sir. And so the producer is here. So the producer will be able to make that linkage to Facebook, all that. Because as I keep saying, I'm talent. I'm talent. I'm talent. And so, Brother Ken, let you know this show originally started out. It was supposed to be Brother Nigel Enzi and myself. But the Nigel Enzi, he got to do all, Captain Black got to do all his other stuff. He couldn't come on. And so, but that's what we all got that link with regard to our great brother. And so, we're just going to begin getting this conversation going with regards to, I got to post something right here for you all. When we're not hungry for justice, it's usually because we're too full of privilege. And so, this is what we're dealing with. We got issues right now. We got issues that are happening right now, and some of it you all probably heard today, and some of it came out. And so we're gonna do this right here. We got another treat for some of y'all.
Furthermore, I will direct the Department of Justice to pursue federal civil rights cases against schools that continue to engage in racial discrimination and schools that persist in explicit, unlawful discrimination under the guise of equity will not only have their endowments taxed, but through budget reconciliation, I will advance a measure to have them fined up to the entire amount of their endowment. A portion of the seized funds will then be used as restitution for victims of these illegal and unjust policies that hurt our country so badly. Colleges have gotten hundreds of billions of dollars from hardworking taxpayers, and now we are going to get this anti-American insanity out of our institutions once and for all. We are going to have real education in America. Thank you.
So And I want y'all checking out the show. We're gonna say share, 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 share. Because I got two other things for y'all. And then Brother Ken and I, we're gonna be jumping into this because I know some stuff already here, because we done had some conversations on some of this right here.
That are tripping on the election of Donald Trump, who act like somehow this is a deviation from America's norm, that this is somehow some unique, horrible break with the history of the country. No. The glitch was the 8 years of the Obama administration. This is back to your regularly scheduled programming. The history of politicians scapegoating black and brown folks, blaming them for problems that they didn't create, and then getting votes on the basis of that, that's not new. Donald Trump didn't create that, didn't invent that. That's been going on for 400 years, back to the colonial period, before we even were a country. So the first lesson is, don't assume that what's happened all of a sudden is a new thing. Don't be shocked by it. This is normal for America. Welcome to your country.
Visit Everyday is Juneteenth on Instagram.
Furthermore, I will direct the
Age groups that NBC released says that 18 to 29, 84% of black men voted for Kamala Harris. 30 to 44, 82% of black men voted for Kamala Harris. 45 to 64, 83% voted for Kamala Harris. And 65 plus, 93% voted for Kamala Harris. Somebody help me understand how you get to 72. Even if you average all of this stuff, how you get to 72% of black men supporting the vice president. The math ain't mathing, but there's usually an attempt to make the impact of black men less than what it is. But if you're saying that every group of us voted over 80%, how then does 72% of, or 70-something% of black men vote for the vice president? I just want to make sure that the record is straight on us, okay? Because a lot of accusations and things that get said about us that don't be true. But if all of these categories say that we voted over 80%, you understand what I'm saying? Let's get the record straight. That's all I'm saying.
And that was Brother Gary Chambers, somebody you familiar with, somebody out that side with you. And so it's a lot to unpack, Brother Ken. It's a lot to unpack. So some of my people said that we had to do a protest vote. We had to do a protest vote with regard to the Democratic Party. We had to do a protest vote. And so you see the dynamics that's not happening as of today with regard to our protest vote, what the votes that went on. So, Brother Ken, what's some of your thoughts? Because we're going to engage in some other conversation about this too.
Well, quite simply put, if you believe that protesting when the world is on fire, people don't think that what's going on in America is happening anywhere else. It's just us. That's fine. Everybody suffers from inflation. Everybody suffers from costs that are exponential. Everybody suffers with a crisis of leadership. Prime Minister of India, Modi, he got kicked out for the same reason. So this is not new territory. When I listen to what people were saying about black men, one way or another, part of it's some truth. Now Gary Chambers spoke truth too, because some people thought it was an exponential threat. The question is, where's the 17 to 20% of black men who decided Donald Trump was not talking about them? You say crime, that's code for black and brown. Now him saying that explicitly because he wanted to draw whatever votes he could draw in the process to get black and brown people to do what have you, vote. Overall, we see with his appointments what he's saying. I mean, the cotton picking emails coming out, text messages. I mean, we kind of know what this is. And if you didn't know what was coming, what rock were you under? I don't understand. I mean, you can look at history. History will tell you graphically that every 65 years, this is a cycle. You can start in 1815. You can go all the way to 1865. That 50-year period is the culmination, but it starts with about 15 years. You can go from 1865 to 1890, and you look up again, and here's starting again. We got live and direct Jim Crow by 1915. We can go to 65. The cycle repeats. Where we at 2015? 2015 looks like 1815. It looks like 1915. So if you know history, you understand that. And people talk about Trump as it relates to Hitler. What people miss is the Weimar years. What were people doing from the time Hitler missed the election, Trump won, to the time he took over and basically rearranged government? What happened in that time period to the German people? What made them go the route they went? Now, most people don't know in history that they had just lost a war or just coming out of a war, which they did lose. The Belgians and the French were coming in and taking the coal to heat their houses as part of their reparations. It's on video. You can go check it out. They'll show it to you. You'll see it. You'll see them literally kick and push a man down and take his coal. Man, people couldn't feed their families, couldn't heat their families. You fast forward to now, you have a constant draw of 4 years of Donald Trump. Oh God, Joe Biden's the worst president in history. Joe Biden's probably going to be in the top 5 presidents of all history because of what he was actually able to accomplish. And I'm not right or left. I'm really pretty much a centrist in my overall viewpoint. My thing is outcomes. Oh, people, black men felt, dissed by Kamala Harris and Barack Obama. Well, when you vote at roughly a 30% clip in most off elections, right? Not a big slate, big ticket presidential election. When you are not engaged financially, when you are not when you are not knowing you're a low information voter, and you don't contribute or donate, what do you think is going to happen to you ultimately? How are people going to respect you and really not talk badly about you and not view you as being inconsequential? How does that happen? So those are my thoughts for that. And when I look at his appointments, Trump's current appointments, I mean, it's a harbinger of what is to come. Matt Gaetz for Attorney General, you got to be kidding me. That's lightweight double A ball if you ever want to see some, amongst other things. So it's kind of hard for me to truly understand what people are thinking and thinking that it's going to be the same as it was during Trump's first term. Maybe they're going to get a stimmy or what have you. I mean, come on, let's be real about this. Where is this really going? And I don't see good things happening for us overall as a group. We lack unity. If you don't have unity of purpose, you got a problem. Guess what? Jewish people, 4%. You have 3 Jewish people that have more wealth than 50% of the population. Just 3. So, and that's the Walton family when I'm speaking to that. So let me be clear as to what, if people want to look this up and think that's not really possible, well, it is. It's the real deal. They control most of the diamond trade and just about all of the banking. And in the famous words of Archibald Rothschild, I would do business with whoever's in play. I don't care who that is who sits in the seat. I care about the money. Hence the Federal Reserves throughout the world. And most of the people that run Federal Reserves are Rothschilds, if not all of them. They have different names, but they're Rothschilds. Believe that. So I'll leave it there and let you take some and give me some more.
Well, what we're going to do, we're going to take a break. We're going to come right back. And this is Brother Ken Jones. And we're going to have this conversation about what we're looking at today, what's going to probably happen down the road. Because, again, this is Ron Tell that we say everyone share, share, share. And we'll be right back.
Need your garments cleaned with care and with a professional touch? Then bring them to One Price Cleaners in Garden City at the Old Farmers Market on Highway 80. Service you can count on.
Outside of the city.
We are back. This is Ron Tell that with Brother Ken Jones, Brother Attorney Ken Jones, been city manager and all of that. So, Brother Ken, I need my reparations. I had needed my reparations. They ain't said not. The Democratic Party ain't said nothing about reparations. But Trump was talking about economics. So what's up with that, Brother Ken?
We'll go to reparations second. Let's talk about what Trump is saying. What has Trump said? Nothing. You were better off under me as black people than you were any other time. Black unemployment is lower right now than it has been. Financially, the country is more stable than it was under Trump. I think people had what I call a sugar rush high from getting the stimulus and the unemployment checks, because a lot of people had never seen $3,000 a month. Who was a working wage person. 1,200 was it. They saw $3,000 a month for 4 months, and then they saw a couple stimulus on the back end of it. Prices at the stores were cheap at the time because there were goods already on the shelf. They did not get caught in COVID supply chain, which, when COVID happened, the world shut down. Things weren't being shipped at the rate they were. Things weren't being replenished. And then all of a sudden, yes, wages went up. For that short 6 or so month period, you had time where those things were at equilibrium for once for people who had never seen it. How did that happen? There are two things that you always ask yourself. One, under what authority does something happen? And two, who is the person that wields that authority and that power? And then so what is the process by which they do so? If you look at those two things, you will understand clearly it was the National Defense Authorization Act in a war or in a pandemic or something that is totally life threatening to the country. You can do what he did, remain in Mexico and all of those things. People think that he has the object power. The president has the power to do that. The president really does not. Congress has to legislate. So not passing the bill for immigration and leaving it wide open is why you have what you have. Now, reparations. To have reparations, we need to go back to doing what we did prior in the civil rights era. We're going to have to make sure that one, we have unity of purpose. Two, we make the ultimate expression of our voice through the vote heard at high percentages. When I lived in Savannah back in 2005 to 2010, I looked at the voting statistics for Savannah and other cities that have large African American populations. In off-slate elections, you're talking about 30%, 35%. Now, yes, this is a presidential election. There was a candidate that was somewhat appealing because of her experience, ethnicity, and her ability to look more and project more stability. Right. So people came out to vote. People came out to vote during Obama. But if you look at the elections between now and then, the turnout was not nearly that high. In fact, turnout was down 10 to 15% overall in this election. Not necessarily by African Americans, but just generally. So when you talk about reparations, Trump's never said he was going to give any reparations. Trump never said anything. Trump makes very wide and broad statements called, you call them in propaganda terms, glittering generalities. Very broad. You think what you want to think, whatever you want to think about what you want to think. And I'm going to give you a piece and you're going to fill in the rest of it with your own set of thoughts. That is how that works. That is what dictators and strong men do. There's a book by Ruth Van Gate called Strong Men, Mussolini to Present. It is an excellent book. Get it on audio. If you ride, if you travel like I do, I can listen when I ride. But that will give you the history. The History Channel also has some very good history on Hitler. It's a 4-part series you can go to, and it will detail everything he did. Because people get caught up and that was his thing. I'm going to give you reparations, right? I'm going to give you back what you lost after World War I. So I don't know how you get to reparations without us harvesting votes and collective financial power. Now, can we get the average man, the working man, to say he's not going to this brand or to this store if you have a problem? I was with Brother Enzi one day, and I saw a guy get beaten by some guys in the local convenience market. Arab guy, pushed the guy, punched the guy, kicked the guy. I didn't intervene because I didn't know what it was about. But just as he was about to do that, Brother Enzi stepped to the door, and as did I, and let the guy just walk out. I didn't intervene immediately, to my point, but I did before it was over. I never went back in that store, and I told everybody I could, never go there. Never go there. Social media wasn't as present as it is now in 2000. But if we want reparations, our reparations really are going to take the form of what we do collectively as a group. We need unity. We really don't have that right
Okay, we'll get into that. Good point. And when we talk about reparations, we see that now what's being told restitution, reparations, and that we now look at some economic, excuse me, I see educational fears coming up also, and that with regards to people who supported this again with their protest vote, because again, people are saying that Cornell was out there, the Green Party is out there. The Libertarian Party is out there. The Communist Party was out there. They were all out there, and that because again, this is a democracy. We can go and vote for who we deem fit, and again, we can have a protest with regards to that. And how do you, I'm going to reconcile some of that with regards to us as a people, in particular, African people? How do you reconcile some of that?
Well, simply put as this. How many people do any of those parties have elected to any major positions in Congress, in the Senate, even in state government? And that will tell you there are two independent senators. There are no Green Party people. There are no, well, there was actually by the end, I think there were three because Sinema switched to becoming independent. But what offices do they hold? I think outcomes. My whole purpose is start at the end. Start with the end game in mind. It's like a chess game. You have a beginning, a middle, and an end game. But you start with the end game in mind. None of these parties really are major. The last time there was a chance, Gary Johnson, had he allowed the ticket to flip, we might not have a Joe Biden. We might not have a bunch of things that have happened because William Well was a very serious candidate in terms of people listening to him. Kind of goofy, kind of crazy, but the guy was brilliant and he had a great governing record in Massachusetts. So he is somebody that people would have looked at and said, well, you are serious, and that is somebody that could actually get something, make something happen. And that did not happen. So that was the last real chance. Currently, the way districts are gerrymandered and will continue to be, especially if you get Matt Gaetz as Attorney General, it's going to be very, very difficult to figure out how we process having voting rights, period. The question is, how much is going to be taken? Not what we're going to get, because they're in the taking section, as a friend of mine would call it. They're not in the giving portion. This is not giving. This is not making America great in terms of making opportunity for everybody. And when you hear the man say the golden age for us was not a golden age. The golden age for us was the height of Jim Crow, getting ready to begin to turn. The 20s and the 30s, that was not a good time for us. And so if people listen carefully, you listen to what he says, he tells you what he's going to do. There's also a 900-page playbook called Project 2025, which we are seeing implemented with all due speed in less than a week. We're dealing with these things. So question becomes, what do we want? Can we coalesce? Can we vote? The Jews are 4%. Jewish people are 4%. 4. But they have outsized influence. They are educated, they have money, they have cohesion, and they have participation, period. When we get those things, we got a chance. We once had those things. Now, how do you reunite that? If I had it, I could tell. I didn't.
And so now throw another element when we talk about when we say Jews, then also predominantly Caucasian, at least here, predominant Jews or predominantly Caucasian. So as some are going to say, the caucasity is still there. That is still there. That still element comes into play. But just to throw that out there with regards to that.
That's correct. I mean, Whoopi Goldberg got in a bunch of trouble for it. And if you look at the statements of a lot of Jewish groups, especially ADL, oh, they're talking about some kind of genetic thing. Well, it's true. You were European Jews. I mean, it's that simple. You have a different religion. You may want to call it culturally that you are different, but the reality is you're still white at the end of the day. And depending on what part of the country you're in, if you're in the West, like Stephen Miller, who is Jewish, they identify with being white, most of them, before they identify with being Jewish.
And absolutely, and those are some of the things that we have to look at when we talk about, say, African people in particular. And then we deal with one of the things that has been out there, one of the glaring things that have been portrayed, and that's why Brother Gary Chambers want to address some of it, and that's why I played the video with regards to that black men were not supporting Kamala and essentially not supporting the Democratic Party. And what do you look at with regard? Oh, excuse me. Let me back up. I'm gonna throw that out the window. What did you see as the failure with regard to the Democratic Party, and what segment of the party did not stand up and come up and meet the measure of what they should have gone to?
In terms of Democratic Party, black people always say, well, where were the Democrats? Where were the Democrats? I'd like to remind people that there are only 7 elected representatives that are black in the Republican Party. Most of them are Tim Scott type individuals. We know what that is. I don't want to besmirch the man, but he makes Uncle Tom's.
You can make it real. That's why Ken. That's why you on here. Just to keep it real, because that's what we know. That guy told everybody. Ken keeps it real. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, look, Byron Donalds, he's a different type of tap dancer, but still a tap dancer. Wesley Hunt, whole different type of animal on that. There are no Will Hurds like talking about. But if you ask, what did the Democratic Party do for us? Well, what's the Republican Party done for us in modern history? Now, prior to that, more people don't realize most blacks were Republicans. That's why the South only had one party and only allowed the Democratic Party their primaries and to vote. That is how that went. However, the DNC is horrible at messaging. It's always bad at messaging, never been good at it. And it failed to deliver a message that landed with people. They were not saying early enough that we understand. Okay, we understand that you're struggling. We are doing the best we can. Here's what's really going on. What we're talking about on the show should have been the message that yes, things are tough right now. We had almost 20 years of zero interest. You cannot sustain an economy at zero. And when inflation starts to creep up, or greedflation in this case, where companies decide they're going to reduce portions, keep the price the same if you're lucky, if not, reduce portions and make it larger. They didn't communicate that. The Democratic Party didn't do a good job on that. The infrastructure bill actually is a wonderful thing because you look at the bridge in Baltimore that needs to be rebuilt. I live where the bridge collapsed in Pittsburgh. I heard the bridge collapse. I live less than a block away. So I could hear that. President Biden came by, the mayor came out, the senator came out, and in less than a year, it was back up. People were like, well, it's going to take years. I said, no, because we put up a stretch 23 miles across I-10 in Louisiana in less than 2 years' time, while putting 2 spans up 23 miles over water. That's a pretty long distance. If you can do that, you can put up a 200-foot or 300-foot bridge that's, very basic in design and put a few supports on it. It's not that it can't be done. The question for us becomes, who are we asking and what are we asking for? Do people even really know to go to their house rep? Do they know how to reach their senator? Do they understand those are the people who you need to have advocate for you? Do you know about your state house coalition that you need to be talking to, who also will interface with those representatives at the federal level to bring local concerns forward? That is where the Democratic Party failed. They did not do a good job with telling what they did do and how they did it. Could more be done? Certainly. However, it is what it is, as they would say. We have what we have. And at this point, if we get, and I'm not so sure, you notice I cautiously use if we get another shot in 4 years to elect somebody, given the way this is starting out, given the way gerrymandering in the districts is, given the way that judges will be further appointed over time, do we even have a vehicle that will allow us 4 years from the protest vote who says, oh, it'll be all right in 4 years, well, they'll respect us the next time? How do you know you get it next time? This time is profoundly different in history than any other time. It's closer to Reconstruction than any other period that I could name for you. Much, much closer. And so, I don't know. It's kind of hard for me to say, what else the DNC could do, because people feel things, They think things, and then those things become action. The actions that were taken because people felt not heard made them think that they're going to do something different, and they took the action of pulling the lever. 17 to 20% of black men pull the lever for Donald Trump. Likewise, more 36% of Hispanics. And guess what? 63% of Hispanic and Latin males said that Donald Trump wasn't talking about them. I saw a poll on it on CNN the other day, and I was just dumbfounded.
So brother Kim, we're gonna take a break. We're gonna come back to that because that is a part of the important conversation. We're gonna come right back to that. We got with us brother attorney Ken Jones. This is Ron Tell that. We're gonna take a quick break and we'll be right back. Oh, not necessarily a quick break, but a break to give you some information. We are home. We are home in Riceboro. We've been here for the Rice Fest. We are here at Gitchikunda, the home of hope, the epicenter for African culture in the Americas, not the United States, but the entire Americas. We are home. We are here celebrating Bride Jim. We are celebrating his life, his legacy at Gitchikunda. Again, right here, we tell our story, our history, always touching the lives of people. We go from Taimiri, Taseti, Tabo. We go to all the lands of our ancestors that y'all like to call Kemet, Nubia, Kush, all that. We go from there, and then we make our way to the land of the Kuta. Kuta, y'all know what Kuta means? That means the land of the turtle. Again, we go from ancient times to the modern times of the present times. But then we're all forgot to hit the button. We are back, and this is one of our videos for Day Clean Soul, and so we got it up there. We say to all y'all, check us out, but also we say check out our supporters. That is our supporters: Davis Johnson Bozeman Law Firm offices in Savannah, Atlanta, and Statesboro. One Price Cleaners in the Farmers Market in Garden City on Highway 80, Kim's Cafe at 714 MLK Jr. Boulevard, and Chef Food and Gas. Don't ride by, stop by. And so again, we say support the people who support you, and that's a part of what we're talking about right now. And so people supported someone in the election, Brother Ken. You about to get into it, but we will get into it right. That someone said that the deportation that will occur to other Latinos will be those who came here, impermissibly, but it will not happen to decent people. So talk about some of this right here, that again, when we talk about Latinos and Hispanics, even within that, I want people to understand who's checking out the show. You have African Latinos. In fact, I was with 7 of them on yesterday. And these, again, from Peru, from Venezuela, from Brazil, yeah. And so I'm like, so they understand that. They understand their Africanness, but you also got the Euro ones, that is the European ones. Then you have the native ones, and of course there's some mixture with all that. They try to hide that. Some people try to hide it, but we call it out. Those who don't know any better, you go along with it and just make it like they're homogenized. No, they're not. They're not monolithic. So, Brother Kim, talk about some of this right here when we look at, again, and again, not just with regards to Hispanics, but now you have Arabs who are now upset also that they went and supported, especially like some out in Dearborn, Michigan, where they went and supported, the efforts of the Republican Party, and now feel betrayed. So, Brother Ken, can you talk about some of that?
Well, let's start with what we talked about earlier. What happens when, who has the authority, and what can you do with it, and who can exercise it? Again, Congress has the authority over immigration. Whatever the rules on the books are, what they are. The 11 million that Trump talks about, 11 million is a real number, but 11 million is the real number of 11 million is not what he's saying. He always has a kernel of truth covered in a swath full of lies. The reality is those 11 million are visa overstayers. If you check, you can Google, people listening to the show, go ahead and Google visa overstayers, and you're going to see that 11 million number. Now, according to the current immigration rules, you can deport those visa overstayers. You cannot do anything with the people that came into the country currently. as it is constituted, the laws are constituted currently. There's nothing you can do with them while they're away asylum or in asylum here, for the most part. I mean, there are some exceptions, but those are rare. You have to commit a crime during the course of that. You have to have entered fraudulently saying that something was that wasn't, and a few other things. However, I think a lot of them and there are articles out there that talk about what happened. I will proffer to you this. They left the countries they left and believed that this country would go the same way their countries went. But they forgot that their grandfathers and great grandfathers felt the same way they did, which is what brought them to the point that they're in. You know, they got here, they're saying the Latin guys got here, and they are a broad swath of people, different makeups, different thought processes. Cubans and Venezuelans are nothing alike. Two different sets of guys. As our Colombians going to be a different set of guys. Belizeans are going to be a different set of guys. Panamanians, different set of guys. All different. No two the same. However, they believe, well, I got here, I'm working hard, everything is fine. They don't realize, unlike the Black experience where you and I, when we walk into rooms, we can be in a room of 500 people, there are 10 Black people, and we're between 1 and 5 in that room. That is the normal course of my work that I've been in, no matter where I've gone, especially doing land law and development and things of that nature. Don't talk about the city manager's role. There's 70 city managers in the state of Maryland. There are 5 Black city managers, and that's an enormous number because those are all Black municipalities. So when you talk about how it looks, I don't think they really understand. And they say, well, we're being overrun by these guys. We're doing good. We don't want to let them in. That's more competition for and against us, ultimately, is what it is. They believe they're preserving something, what they saw when they came here, one way or another. And what concerns me is that I am watching where you have places that were traditionally Black workplaces, that Hispanics of various stripes are being elevated, and it's you're better than they are. And I understand why when people come to America, they look at us because there's no credit other places. So we don't really understand as a group how to use and leverage credit. They say you can make all the money you want. Oh, you mean I'm not looking for red bottoms. I'm not looking for, Fendi, Gucci, Prada. What's interesting is when you see them, they come, they work 2, 3 jobs, they send their money home, they bring their families over, they start businesses, and then they educate their children. I lived in Los Angeles when Villaraigosa's father was the first Hispanic council person on the council in 1990. I was living there. His son has since become the mayor. His son has since gone up, and I think he has another role now. I don't know exactly his role in California. You have 6 Hispanic councilmen now in Los Angeles. That was unheard of, unthinkable at the time. Not to say that, folks don't deserve equal representation, because they do. Quite frankly, they should. But what they believe thus far is a fallacy. There's nothing good that's going to happen for them because they get looked at like us. The guy on the corner is who you and I are looked at when we walk in those rooms. I know you go in those rooms. I know what you've done in the past for a living, and you, like me, are a lawyer the last time I checked. So I know you understand this. So for me, when I look around, all I say is I don't hope or throw protest in that's where it stops. I'm looking at the end game. How does this all end? Not what I think, what I hope for, what I might want or wish. I look at what's happened. And if you look at Trump's history and you look at the history of democracies going upside down, people always thought in 4 years it'd be different. It didn't turn out that way in Italy. It didn't turn that way in Germany. Britain just finally decided to get the bag off their head, but the world wasn't on fire when they went down the road they went down. They've thrown all of that out. And by the way, Steve Bannon was behind Brexit. And Brexit essentially was the same sort of thing we have. It's us against the foreigners, except you didn't have tiers of foreigners that you could play on, or groups, because they're not as ethnically diverse as we are. But like us, the hinterlands of the country, or red parts of America, are seated with the same type of folks. So it's the same approach. But we think so small, we think local, we don't think global. So that's what I have been seeing, you know, and I don't know how this all falls out in terms of, I know it doesn't go well. I just don't know how badly it's gonna go. Not as of yet, at least.
Okay. All right. And we have another element that comes into play. And so we've heard some of it. So again, you all see, I'm just going to share some of for some people who may be listening to us. Trump abolishing education department spells doom for Black America. And with that, just reading some of it, and say Donald Trump's campaign to eliminate the U.S. Department of Education is being criticized as a potential whitewashing of America's education system and a challenge to Title I and Title VI that could defund special education, school lunch programs, and possible cancellation of summer schools. And so I'll let you all finish reading some of this right here, those of you out there, but I want some people to get the sense of. And as some of y'all read, Arnie Duncan, former Secretary of Education, when it discussed our history being whitewashed, adding, we've had to have to be concerned about defunding vulnerable populations. Title I money is for poor children, special needs children, and it continues. After school programs, summer school programs might be taken away. Access to higher education, again, being limited. And you already called out Steve Bannon.
Well, Bannon and Miller, Stephen Miller, those two guys are the biggest problems. Trump is essentially an empty vessel. He's not an
Right.
ideologue as Hitler was or Mussolini. He ain't got the sense either one of them. He's more behind adulation and the perception of having power and being lauded. That's kind of the thing. What's funny about him is there's a story that Mary Trump tells in the book where her father, because Trump was so out of control and really just giving the younger brother the blues, the dad wasn't there, and it's the mother and the grandmother. Her father dumped a bowl of mashed potatoes on his head, and he started crying at that point. And people don't really understand that. You know, the guy's textbook narcissist, and he's a sociopath, quite frankly. Now, Department of Education, let's get on to that. That's what you had on
Well, I want to throw it out. And one of the things that when they discuss with the guys that Bannon is saying that, hey, it'll be unconstitutional to support. And so that's why, and again, I'll say to those HBCU grads, those alums, that when you supported this effort right here, you are now almost signing the death knell with regards to your institutions. But then also, I threw it out there to folks earlier today. I said that many of them looking at and some of the HBCUs now have concerns with regards to that. But then there's also those who then want to go to predominantly Caucasian institutions or what they call, or they used to be called, and some may still be using the name, minority serving institutions. So again, you have the MSIs, PWIs. But then I tell folks, I say that it's not just the HBCUs that need to be concerned about this, and the MSIs need to be concerned about this, but you got vocational schools and technical schools also. Because if you have that Caucasian person who now feels that they were discriminated against, then that opens up the door now for, again, a litany of this insanity to occur. And again, you hear Trump talking about insanity and disrespecting of America. No, understand that's the propaganda they threw out, that we need to be clearing, have those clearing calls to address that and say something about it. That's what we have to do. That's a part of somebody say about solutions. We ain't just talking, but we telling you what needs to be done. That even if you speaking out, that plays a role with regards to solution, because people are silent. And that's why, again, that silent majority has allowed this to occur. So go ahead, my brother.
Well, I'm not so certain as of yet. The things he said in the video, he has no authority or power to do at this point. You know, those are again congressional actions that have to occur. You know, and poor is poor. Whether you're poor and you're white, you're poor and you're black, you're poor and you're Hispanic, financially, if you everything is set
Absolutely.
on a level. And when black men were saying and black people were saying about immigrants in Chicago, well, why don't we get it? Well, the law says if you can prove discrimination at some point, i.e., go for reparations, you have a shot. But in this case, otherwise, everything has to be done equally for everybody. That's equal protection of the Fifth and 14th Amendment that are at play. We miss that. We don't understand that. Well, what about us? What about us? If you're not getting a skill or a trade or some sort of understanding or how to earn something, you ain't eat. You kill what you eat in this world. That is the name of the story. And you go to Latin America for sure, you're killing what you eat. Because again, it ain't no credit. It's not readily available jobs. There are two classes, rich and poor. You delete education, you go to a two-class society. And that is what the role is. That is what all of this is all about, making us a two-class society. And if you are a loyalist and you're low down, you can try to rise up a bit. That's what fascism does. It's not hard to understand because Mussolini said it best. He said the ultimate expression of fascism is when corporations and the government lead in tandem. So people, you know, if you don't think education is important, let it not be so. My whole spiel to people was prior to the election, you are dealing with, can I keep what I have or how much are they going to take from me? You didn't have to like Kamala Harris. You didn't have to think she was the best thing since sliced bread. All you had to do is understand she represented not that. And that is something that we don't know exactly how it's going to turn out. Now, people can hope for the substance of things not being worse. But the reality is that's all you can do is hope because you have no control over what happens. We need to vote early, we need to vote often, and we need to vote in any election. If there is an election for dog catcher, we need to be there. We want to change. If you take voting and you put 90, we vote 80 to 90% up from 30 to 40%, people will take notice. It will happen. It will change because that means I can take you out of this place. But if we don't get education, we got an issue. Skill, trade, it is fine. Guess what? I don't feel bad for the plumber. I don't feel bad for the electrician. I don't feel bad for the truck driver. Because guess what? They're making 100, six-figure plus salaries. Guy that's got a couple trucks, he ain't doing too bad. You know, he has some dips, but he ain't doing bad. I know when I call an electrician and he comes to my house, I know I got to pay him $100 when he show up at the door, plus his hourly rate, plus when he goes to pick up parts, I got to pay him for that time. So there are various ways for us to do it. There's a barber that I know who makes $140,000 a month. There are 14 shops in Maryland. He stands behind his chair, but he collects rent on about 12 chairs in those 14 shops. That's what I'm saying. It's about 12. I used to know the actual number. I'm certain the 141 is correct because I broke it down many years ago and did the math. This is a barber doing this. So there are many ways, if you can figure out something to do, that you can parlay that. Even if you got to start with a lawnmower, cutting some grass with your weed eater, your lawnmower, or your gas can. I started my first business in college with the dishwashing detergent out the windowsill, a chamois out the garage that my grandfather had, and a whisk broom and a tin bucket. I made $3,000 that summer, and I had wet dry bags, buffers, and all the equipment I needed. That's how you take what you have. For people who are religious, Obadiah's wife will tell you the best story. You take the olive oil, and what you got? You got some olive oil in your house, and go get some jars and fill them till you can't fill them no more. Use what you have in front of you. If you can't figure that out right now, take a little time. Take a little time and figure it out and figure out what you know how to do. You might be good at baking cupcakes, you might make a mean barbecue, you might make fish sandwiches. I don't know. But at the end of the day, we need to be educated to the tune of what we're going to do technically or what we're going to do from a professional skill level. But most importantly, we need to understand money in business. How do we do business correctly? How do we have money in place? And that's where education comes in for all of it.
All right, my brother, you've given some thoughts to people out there with regards to where we need to be and how to regroup, say, with regards to 2 years and 4 years. What do we need to do to get to the level where we need to be 2 years from now? Because we're going to have, again, we're going to have congressional elections, and then also going to be some other state elections happening too, but congressional elections, and then also for us to have the White House that we need to have the Senate that we need to have, and have the Congress that we need to have. What do we need to do with regards to that?
To the extent that it is possible, given the way things are being jiggled and rejiggled right now, we need to vote. We need to vote at an extremely high frequency. We need to advocate. We need to be at everything from school board to gubernatorial elections. We need to tell our friends and family members and explain to them in terms that they understand. Trump's genius is that he communicates between the fourth and sixth grade level in very simple and stark terms. Doesn't mean you're going to get anything, but people then superimpose on the glittering generalities and the populist views. They impose that over that. So we need to vote. We need to be educated on it, and we need to also get involved. If you can't canvas, donate. You can't donate, make some phone calls, encourage your friends. But most importantly, be seized with correct knowledge and information to make an informed decision and start with the end in mind. How do I want this to come out? What does that look like? And then reverse engineer back to where you need to start.
Absolutely, and I say that, and it's crucial. You threw some of the points out earlier. We need African people to come together and not let other people cause us to be divided. We cannot allow social media, we cannot allow other traditional media to go and have us putting out this misinformation, so then that way black men and black women are no longer together, and that we are now looking at each other at odds, when in fact it's the enemy. That we need to be focused on the enemy, not us, and understand that we have to cleave together. Then also, this is what I share with folks, this, and that Caucasians need to understand, they need to listen to us. We are the ones that have gone through the storm that is called America. We have gone through the storm, and we've been able to navigate it even with all the unfairness. And so many of them tend to give up and not understand, and then comes down to, and the messaging that they put out, not understanding how to connect, and that it's tied to some arrogance, and I need Caucasians to bring it down, so then that way they now understand. Listen to the people who have the understanding, who have been out here talking about this. We've been talking about justice in the various phases with regards to living, with regards to economics, with regards to spirituality, with regards to education, with regards to quality of life. We have always been out there discussing this and talking about justice in those realms. And I should say also the environment. We've been discussing this, but people tend to ignore us. And that's what I've said to some folks early today. And I've been listening to some folks last week also, that when we are in these places, that we don't speak about the black issues. And the black issues, for some people, they see it just as a black issue. But guess what? That is generally a community issue. The black issue is generally a community issue that is impacting everyone. It's just that sometimes we are the thermometer and the bellwether for it. And that if you don't correct it for us, then guess what? It will then hurt everyone else. And so that's why we have to be able to understand it and understand our uniqueness with regard to our power. And so, my brother, this is the little brother show of all the shows on Our Black Media. So we're gonna let you close us out. We'll give you about a minute to go, a minute and a half to discuss what are the solutions, what we need to be doing, and any other words of wisdom that you want to give to the folks.
Well, what I would say to folks is it's tough times right now. It's real. It's not going to be easy by any stretch of the imagination. And right now is the time to continue fighting and fighting with everything you have, because they are definitely trying to take. They're trying to take your liberty, trying to take your freedom. They're trying to take. This is not a game. This is real. This is as real as it gets. We read about what happened in history, but history repeats itself frequently because we don't understand the patterns that present themselves in front of our very own eyes. What got us free in the first place? Harnessed collective financial power, voting power, and edifying and educating each other. That is what happened during the civil rights movement. We are back to that point right now. A divided house doesn't stand, and the individual stands no chance against a wolf pack. It is just that simple. If we do not get on that, we have a problem. What are we asking our children most importantly? What are we saying? What are our expectations in the community? When I was a child growing up, everybody said, well, what are you going to be? So very early on, I knew there was an expectation for me to do certain things. College was foregone in my household. It was without a doubt. Everybody's not going to college. You don't have to go to college to be successful. You have many outlets. Pursue those outlets. Be positive with family. Keep family close, more important. And start in small groups. No, they say an old African proverb, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Start in small groups with small numbers. Be about an agenda and make it happen. That's what we need to do overall, first and foremost. So my admonition to people is stick together, work together, make something happen. And listen, store-bought class things, those things don't matter. What matters is what you have in terms of your ability to take care of yourself. Sometimes it's money in the bank, sometimes it's assets. And what world are we leaving for our children in front of us? That's what we need to be thinking.
All right, excellent, my brother. This is Brother Ken Jones, Brother Attorney Ken Jones. And so I'm going to ask you this last question. This is probably the most important question that we have throughout our entire show. And you've been around. And so the question I pose to folks is this: what is the best high school in the entire United States? What is the best high school in the entire United States? Please get it right.
Get it right. The best high school in the entire country, if you ask me, and I'm woefully biased, St. Augustine High School, New Orleans, Louisiana.
That's a lie. That's a lie. It's Herschel V. Jenkins High School. You've been here. You understand that. So again, Brother Ken Jones got it wrong.
Georgia, I'll buy. What's Savannah, Georgia? I will buy Savannah, Georgia. Because some would say AEB. Some would say that.
Nigel don't know what he's talking about. It's called propaganda. This is Run Tell That. Brother Ken, glad to have you with us. And we say check out all our shows on Our Black Media. And the Rabble is up next.
Thank you.
Like this.